At the time of the staff report, PD&E had a comment reading, coordinate with Alaska Department of Transportation for an approach road permit. Please provide an average daily traffic estimate. Unless authorized by Alaska Department of Transportation, any above ground utility facilities shall not be located within the Palmer-Wastilla Highway right-of-way nearer than 40 feet to the proposed right-of-way of Chopper Circle per 2022 SCM H02.2C. OnStar GCI had no comments or objections. MTA asks that the dedication block be added to the plat. RSA number 9 objects, citing disagreement with the disagreement with the, quote, development that depends upon or allows / promotes / uses flag lot access such as is proposed here. Flag lot driveways tend to create significant issues for snow removal / storage. RSA number 9 would not want the responsibility of keeping it open during the winters. I caution that if there is a way to prevent / preclude proposed Chopper Circle from ever being petitioned and accepted as an RSA road, I would include that forever ban in this original acceptance, end quote. At the time of the staff report write-up, there were no responses to the request for comment from Community Council, South Lakes, Division of Sport Fish, U.S. ACE, MSB Emergency Services, Community Development, Assessments, or Planning. Staff recommends approval of the variances and of Chopper Industrial Park with the 6 findings of facts and 8 conditions of approval.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reynolds. Do we have any questions for staff?
I'm just curious whether there was any comment from state DOT on the approach or whether it was put to them. I know that's an extremely busy corridor. I just didn't know if the state DOT had comments to add, or whether it's just up to the developers to obtain that permit through them.
I do not have any comments from Alaska Department of Transportation, but there is an existing average daily traffic count. I believe it should be, yeah, it should be in the staff report, Exhibit E.
No.
Well, I'm sorry, one more question. Was there any comment from staff or regarding the road service area concern about being able to plow it? They seem fairly adamant that the design is going to make it very, very difficult for them to keep their roads open in the winter.
Mr. Wagner.
Thank you, Fred Wagner, Planning Officer. The RSA's, the opinion of the RSA supervisor or RSA is appreciated. However, these lot configurations meet code requirements. They have been checked to make sure that they would meet the driveway requirements as well. So there actually is, there's nothing within code to object to at this time. They would, I would say that the comments made would be something that would need to be addressed within code. Would require a code change. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Would the petitioner or the petitioner's representative like to speak?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Craig Bennett with S4 Group. I'm the petitioner's representative. And staff did a great job, and as was stated, this is about a 15-acre parcel. Looking to do 10 lots. It meets code. Triad Engineering has applied for driveway permit and is working with DOT on that access. And DOT, my understanding, is basically saying you get one access on the public road and you can't have any other driveways is what DOT's going to be saying. But fairly simple, and with that, I'll just let it go to if there's any questions and if the public has any statements.
Any questions?
So if I'm understanding correctly, there is no access for Palmer-Warsaw Highway except for that new flagpole road goes in there.
DOT will only allow that one cul-de-sac access.
Okay.
Any other questions? I don't
Thank
see
you.
any. Good, thank you. Okay, can I get a motion from the board? Oh, sorry, I'm not feeling well today. I'm going to open up public testimony. Anybody present that would like to testify? Anybody online? Okay, seeing none, I am closing public testimony. Oh, I hate to ask this, but did you want to come back up and speak again?
I just want to thank staff for the work they did on this and available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Thank you.
Okay, now, can I get a motion from the board?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the preliminary plat of Chopper Industrial Park, Section 04, Township 17 North, Range 01 East, Seward Meridian, Alaska, contingent upon staff recommendations 1 through 8.
Thank you, Mr. Liebing. Can I get a second?
I second it.
Thank you very much. Discussion from the board? Seeing none, are there any objections for approval? Motion has been approved. Okay, next we have Rafter Ridge. The request is to create 2 lots from government lots 15 and 16 to be known as Rafter Ridge, containing 8.59 acres plus or minus, to be accessed by water. The property is located directly east of Big Lake in the northeast quarter section 25, Township 17 North, Range 04 West, Seward Meridian, Alaska, in the Big Lake Community Council and in Assembly District Number 5. To the board. Do you or any member of your immediate family have a substantial financial interest in any property affected by this decision, or will you recognize a foreseeable profit as a result of this decision? Seeing none, have you received or otherwise engaged in ex parte contact with the applicant, other parties interested in the application, or members of the public concerning the application or issues presented in this application, either before the application or during any period of time the matter is submitted for decision outside of the public process provided by the borough? Seeing none, are you able to be impartial in this decision? Seeing an affirmative, Madam Secretary, the mailings, please.
There was 19 public notices mailed January 28th, 2026.
Thank you very much. Staff report.
Thank you, Chair. Chris Curlin, Platting staff. The proposed subdivision is creating 2 lots ranging in size from 3.71 acres to 4.88 acres. Proposed lots will be accessed via water pursuant to MSB 43-2100B. Upon finding that no practical means of providing road access to a proposed subdivision exist, and upon showing that permanent public access by air, water, or railroad is both practical and feasible, the Platting Board shall waive the road requirements of subsection A of this section. Other than road access is approved, the mode of access shall be noted on the plat. Soils report, a geotechnical report was submitted at Exhibit B pursuant to MSB 43-20-281A. Curtis Holler, professional engineer, notes the soils investigation consisted of 1 test hole dug to a depth of 13.5 feet. No groundwater was encountered in the test hole. Soil specifications for the test hole are noted in the soil inspection log sheet. The engineer states that based on Title 43-2281 of the MSB Code, all lots contain sufficient overall area. All lots have at least 10,000 square feet of usable building area. All lots have at least 10,000 square feet of contiguous usable septic area. Comments. United States Army Corps of Engineer notes there may be aquatic resources within the proposed boundaries of the eastern parcel. Department of the Army authorization is required if anyone proposes to place dredge and/or fill material into U.S. waters, including wetlands and/or perform work in navigable waters of the U.S. MSB Pre-Design and Engineering has no comments. MSB Permit Sitter has no comments. Instar had no comments or recommendations. GCI has no comments or objections. MTA requests an easement change to T&E or utility easement and attach the easement to their comment. Staff notes this has been added to the updated agenda plat. MEA did not respond. Conclusion, the plat of Rafter Ridge is consistent with state statute and borough code. A soils report was submitted. Water access exists. As-built survey and topographic information were submitted. There were no objections received from borough departments, outside agencies, utilities, or the public at the time of the staff report. Platting staff recommends approval of Rafter Ridge with these 6 findings of fact and 7 conditions of approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Curlin. Any questions from staff, for staff?
Just one question, and I think it's pretty straightforward. So the original property had no road access to begin with, correct?
It has no legal access as right-of-ways and
Okay.
easements go.
So changing it to 2 lots really doesn't change any of the existing conditions.
No.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Nope. Thank you, Mr. Curley. Would the petitioner or the petitioner's representative like to speak?
Can I just take a
Mr. Wagner?
Thank you. We did have a little hiccup there. Lost internet on this computer anyways, but it looks like it's back. I think everything else is working well. It shows Planning Commission showing. I don't know who was at 8677 listening. See if they can hear, but it looks like, okay, I had lost the ability to pull up the plat map and everything, so it looks like it's back now. Just wanted to give a minute to put up the sample. So. I'm with you. Thank you.
All righty, so petitioner or the petitioner's representative is not present. Okay, I'm going to open for public hearing. Is there anybody present or online that would like to testify? Is there anybody online? All right, I'm closing public hearing. And petitioner's representative, present? No? Okay, can I get a motion from the board?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the preliminary plat of Rafter Ridge, Section 25, Township 17 North, Range 0 West, Seward Meridian, Alaska, contingent upon staff recommendations 1 through 7.
Thank you very much. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Discussion from the board? No discussion from the board. Are there any objections for approval? Seeing no objection, the motion passes. So next we have Lucas 2025. The request is create one lot from lots 8, 9, 15, and 16, Lucas subdivision, plat 5-65, to be known as Lucas 2025, containing 0.53 acres plus or minus. The plat is located east of South Glen Highway, south of West Evergreen Avenue, and north of West Elmwood Avenue, located in the northeast quarter, section 5, Township 17 North, Range 02 East, Seward Meridian, Alaska. No community council. Assembly district is 002. To the board. Do you or any member of your immediate family have a substantial financial interest in any property affected by this decision, or will you recognize a foreseeable profit as a result of this decision? Seeing none, have you received or otherwise engaged in an ex parte contact with the applicant, other parties interested in the application, or members of the public concerning the application or issues presented in this application, either before the application or during any period of time the matter is submitted for decision outside of the public process provided by the borough? Are you able to be impartial in this decision? All righty. Madam Secretary, the mailings, please.
There was 128 public notices mailed January 28th, 2026.
Thank you very much. Staff report.
Thank you, Chair. Cayman Reynolds, Platting staff. Let's see. The proposed subdivision is heard under MSB 43.15.025 abbreviated plats and MSB 43.15.054G exemptions. Elimination of common lot lines are exempt from survey and monumentation requirements and allow the surveyor to use record information from the prior plat. There were no objections or concerns received from bureau departments, outside agencies, or the public at the time of this staff report. Palmer City Community Development notes that lots 8-1, 15, and 16 do not appear on the vicinity map. This is due to MSB Parcel Viewer being inaccurate. The plat of Lucas 2025 is consistent with AS 29.40.070 platting regulations, MSB 43.15.025 of abbreviated plats, and MSB 43.15.054G exemptions. Plats to remove lot lines are exempt from provisions of the code, which require soils report submittals, legal and physical access, as-built survey, and topographic information. There were no objections received from bureau departments, outside agencies, or the public at the time of the staff report. Staff recommends approval of Lucas 2025 with the 6 findings of facts and 5 recommended conditions of approval.
Thank you very much. Any questions for staff? Being none, thank you, Cayman. Would the petitioner like to speak? You don't have to right now. You can wait till the second round. All right, I'm going to open up for public hearing. Does anybody present like to speak? Anybody online? Closing public testimony. You're up, Gary.
I even debated coming up. You've never seen one of these before. You know why? It was supposed to be an abbreviated plat.
We know.
Okay, that's it. Thanks.
All righty, thank you, Gary. Okay, can I get a motion from the board?
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of the abbreviated plat 5-65 known as Lucas 2025 contingent upon staff recommendations 1 through 5.
Thank you very much. Can I get a second?
A second.
Thank you. Discussion from the board? No discussion. Are there any objections? No objection. Motion passes. Okay, so now we have Wilmington Hill. The request is to create 76 lots from parcel 18N01W21C005 to be known as Wilmington Hill, containing 80 acres plus or minus. The property is located directly north of West Wilmington Drive, east of North Infinite Road, and south of West Shirrock Road, within the Southwest Quarter, Section 21, Township 18 North, Range 01 West, Seward Meridian, Alaska, in the Tenina Community Council and in Assembly District Number 6. To the board. Do you or any member of your immediate family have a substantial financial interest in any property affected by this decision, or will you recognize a foreseeable profit as a result of this decision? Seeing none, have you received or otherwise engaged in an ex parte contact with the applicant, other parties interested in the application, or members of the public concerning the application or issues presented in this application, either before the application or during any period of time the matter is submitted for decision outside of the public process provided by the borough? Seeing none, are you able to be impartial in this decision? Being an affirmative, Madam Secretary, the mailings, please.
There was 20 public notices mailed February 10th, 2026.
Thank you very much. Staff report.
Thank you, Chair. Cayman Reynolds, Platting staff. As for Wilmington Hill, a geotechnical report was submitted on Exhibit B pursuant to MSB 43.20.281A. Curtis Holler, PE, notes that 22 test holes were dug to a depth of 11 to 17 feet, with 3 hitting water at 8.5 to 10.5 feet. The site forms a rectangle oriented north-south. Large undivided parcels lie to the west, north, south, and east. The majority of the parent parcel forms a gentle, low ridge oriented northeast to southwest. There is a 10 or 15 feet to 25 foot steep drop in grade to a substantial lower area at the northwest corner. Grade is similarly lower at the southeast corner. However, both the lower and steep areas are minimal. Several areas with slopes exceeding 25% grade exist. Total elevation differential indicated from the provided topography map contours is about 72 feet. Report indicates that each of the proposed lots will contain over 10,000 square feet of contiguous usable septic area and an additional 10,000 square feet of usable building area. PD&E comments on why 7 Oaks Drive is not aligned to meet up with a future extension of West Faith Road. PD&E requests the cul-de-sac for Dart Ford Street be moved to adjoin the northern boundary of the subject parcel. End quote. These comments were addressed by the surveyor, abbreviated quote, West Faith Road can curve to line up with 7 Oaks or use T intersections to slow traffic, etc. End quote. There were 3 public comments, each expressing concern at the development for environmental, road safety, and maintenance, claiming the roads are currently badly maintained and flood mitigation issues. At the time of the staff report write-up, there were no responses to requests for comments from Alaska Department of Fish and Game, U.S. ACE, Community Council West Lakes, RSA Gold Trail, MSP Emergency Services, Planning Division, Permit Center, or Development Services, or MTA. There is apparently an issue in the staff recommendation conditions of approval indicating that it still says Pioneer Standard on condition 4 when I believe it should say Borough Standard. Residential standard, residential subcollector. Beyond that, staff recommends approval of Wilmington Hill with these 7 findings of fact and 8 recommended conditions of approval.
Thank you very much. Questions for staff? Mr. Gilson.
Can you repeat that change with number 4 with the standard there?
Yes. So currently on the staff report that I have, it reads construction and access road and cul-de-sac to Pioneer Standard according to the 2022 subdivision construction manual. It should read construction and access road and cul-de-sac to residential subcollector standard according to the 2022 subdivision construction manual.
Mr. Wagner.
Actually, we did create, we corrected that a little bit differently. You have the old, I put on the screen here the actual conditions that are in the packet, and it actually says construct the access road and internal roads to Matsu Borough standard according to the 2022 subdivision construction manual. That way it leaves it for, we didn't spell out which ones have to be specific standards so that they will meet the standard, and that will be taken care of through the pre-construction phase. Just to clear that up, we did have some discrepancy. We had it out with private and we figured the quick way to fix it was to say, since there were going to be several different types of roads within the subdivision, and I believe the surveyor agreed with the final conclusion, and so that's what the condition looks like, and that's what we would be asking to approve now. It's on your screen if you wish to see it.
Can I get clarification, because it was supposed to be Wilmington Drive, Longfield Street, and Folkestone Drive to be constructed to residential sub-collector standard. So is there a difference between that and residential?
What we did was we didn't spell out each road separately. We said that these will be built to the borough standard as required. So we're building the roads to borough standards. So the roads that need to be residential will be residential. Ones that need to be sub-collectors will be sub-collectors.
Gotcha.
It's just we didn't, we wanted to straighten up the staff report and have it make a little more sense. So.
And staff or Fred, we have the traffic counts in order to determine that.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff?
If I can, I would also point out that handout A should have the correct information for the staff report for this, as it was noted as an update in the handout, the first one.
I have one more staff question. It appears that some of the public comments indicate the poor condition of Wilmington Drive as it exists now. Do we know, is it built also to the standard that would allow this additional traffic count, since it's all going to travel on that road? I assume Wilmington is currently a borough road.
Mr. Reynolds or Mr. Wagner?
Thank you through the chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Fred Wagner, Platting Officer. Yes, the Wilmington Drive is owned and maintained by the Mat-Su Borough. So it would not be a condition of approval for them to improve the road unless they were increasing the road standard, which I don't believe is the case.
That was my question.
Yep.
Did the additional traffic
So I do not believe it did. Let me take a quick look to be positive. Back over to my side one.
And if I can, in that same question, we're talking about the extension of Wilmington at this time, not going back and reconstructing the beginning section of Wilmington that services that previous subdivision in there, correct?
I believe that if the subdivision were creating enough traffic that it was increasing the functional classification of the existing portion,
Right.
then it would be required. But I don't believe that is the case.
That's what I was understanding. We're talking about at this time the extension and building that extension to the borough standard, not adding anything additional to what's existing.
That is true.
Any further questions for staff? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Kamen. Alrighty. Gary.
Forgot to state my name last time. Gary LaRusso with Keystone Surveying for the petitioners who are here. As the brief overview, they've already gotten all the permits they needed to construct. They worked with the Public Works Department on construction. They've worked with the permitting department on getting a permit to work in the section line easement, which you need a permit. And they've also been in contact with the Corps of Engineers. So just as an overview, that's where it is. And I'll come back up after to answer questions.
Okay.
I've been sick. You can
Yeah,
tell.
me too.
Sorry.
Yeah, the cooties are wandering around now. Okay. So I am going to open for public hearing. Is there anybody present that would like to speak to this case? Can you, oh, you got to push the button.
There we go.
And sign our
Okay.
book too, please.
Okay, I'll do that. My name is Patricia O'Neill. And I would actually be curious to see the permits that have been obtained for that clearing. It is a wetland, and as a realtor, that process usually takes more than 2 months. And by the time they close on that subdivision, that road was going in. I know because I heard the things. I took a picture yesterday. So there's a road through wetlands, and I have friends who had spent 1.5 years getting permit on a section line easement. So I would like to understand better how it takes my friends 1.5 years for a private residence on a very similar situation, but not wetlands, to get a permit, and this was done in less than 2 months. I'd also like to know what the communication has been for the Corps of Engineers going across wetlands. This is a great concern to me. We have land adjacent, and we have soil conditions that do not allow hardly for a septic. We heard that there were 3 holes that were dug that had water at 8 feet, I believe it was. I have a great concern for the wetlands around, especially where UAA just sold their land to Alaska Housing Finance Corporation, and that they're working with developers. I see on this plat that there are 2 roads heading directly in that direction to where that land would be. This land has been on the market for a very long period of time, and it did not sell because of the cost and the difficulty of crossing wetlands, but it was done in less than 2 months. And I really have questions about that because the process can be very, very, very long. And we had people contact us who are normal people like me that want to own land. And they asked if they could access through our property because it was so difficult to get access to those 80 acres. But it has already been done. So I have questions about that. And I'd really like you guys to look into it, because if access to this acreage is important and that's part of what you guys are approving, and it's crossing wetlands, and where they're going with the subdivision, where Alaska Housing Finance Corporation is additional wetlands, I have concern for the health of our community for when it comes to septic and wildlife. And I think that that is something that we really need to consider in the borough. I'd like that to be something that's looked at deeply, because if 76 homes are going in here and we don't have the ability to support it with septic systems truly, and it's affecting our wetlands and the access to it is, I think that that is something that should be a deep consideration. I don't know what you guys play in that. I'm not saying that it's a law in platting and all the specifics of having certain size acreage, but my concern is for the access and how this is actually going to affect the community we live in. Also, schools and access. We talk about access. I'm going to talk really quick. Schrock is state maintained, has nothing to do with the borough. This year I had to come to a stop to pass someone because 24 hours after it snowed, it wasn't plowed. We're going to add 80 people to this. And they're talking about closing down Larson. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else like to testify? Oh, you got to push the button, sir. There we go.
My name's Thomas O'Neill. I'm also a property owner next to this proposed subdivision. Currently, I have some concerns about, like we already heard, the wetlands around the area and how the whole permit process goes. The Corps of Engineers, the DEC website show no permits have been pulled for crossing those wetlands. Also, in looking at the process for the easement, it's a very long process, and it requires public hearing, or at least announcements to go out, and there was no announcements that went out. Once again, here we're tearing up more farmland that's going to become a subdivision. I know that's just growth, right? Whatever, but there's people that have had houses back there for a long time, properties, and this is going to affect them greatly. We have lower land on ours that will receive runoff from this property. There's lots on the north side of this that are below that ridge line that floods every year. It's not considered wetlands, but it floods every time the rain and the snow melts. So all that water is going to go onto other people's land. There's no runoff. There's no runoff plans or anything for that. Fire service area. There's one volunteer fire station that is a significant distance from this, and then there's no services out there. one road to serve all these houses for evacuating that area or for fire service. And we know this is obviously looking to expand into other areas, so there's gonna be more probably homes than this just off this one road. It's gonna be significant increase in pollution, noise pollution for the area, more wells and septic to deal with. Also, we have light pollution that's gonna, people live back there, and now there's gonna be lights all over new neighborhoods. Yeah, it's part of development, but it's not what the people that bought the land back there signed up for. The wetlands have trumpeter swans, they have moose back there, there's sandhill cranes. All that stuff's gonna get be affected by this. My suggestion is lots that, if they're gonna subdivide this, why are we doing 1 acre lots in an area like this where the roads can't support it, where the schools can't support it, where the feeder, even the main state road really can't support this kind of traffic on the corners there during rush hour traffic. Wilmington already gets backed up. Wilmington's in bad condition, like we've heard. There's no plan for it, and it's gonna come out of our taxes to pay for fixing this stuff after the developers are done. There's no thought about that stuff down the road. Who's going to pay for all this? They don't pay for fixing the road after they're tear it up with hundreds and hundreds of trucks running across it for the next 5 years or whatever this is supposed to take. Yeah, it all comes back on us as citizens to pay for all this stuff. There's also, I noticed in the plat, everything is a lot. There's nothing that's not a lot or road on 80 acres. There's no green space. We know what happens. The developers come in, they buy this land, they sell it to the builders wipe all the trees out. Just like we had major windstorms this year. What's going to happen now? All these trees gone? No consideration for that. Maybe it's not a platting problem. I don't know. I don't know what the process is further on down the road, but as a concerned neighbor, I'm just bringing up stuff that I've talked to other people about and that I have concerns about. So that's all I have for now. And the one last thing I would like to say, the ethics part of it, I'm going to leave it at that.
Thank you for your testimony. Next.
I need to sign in, right?
Yes, please.
Good day. My name is Beth Hastings. My husband and I live off Newfield Drive, which is east and north of this proposed subdivision. We own 80 acres and farm it. I will use my 3 minutes, and my husband will use his 3 minutes to convey our comments on this issue. In short, according to laws of the state of Alaska and Matsu Borough Code, which adopts said laws, the proposed subdivision violates Alaska State Fire Code, Alaska State Mechanical Code, and the lending requirements outlined in the Alaska statutes governing the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation. In accordance with both state and borough code, any subdivision greater than 30 units requires a secondary fire apparatus access road designed specifically in accordance with International Fire Code standards. At 76 units, this subdivision exceeds the maximum allowable by law. Therefore, a secondary access road must be constructed before housing exceeds 30 units. This is a fixed time requirement set by state and borough code. Secondary access roads have been a very long-standing issue at the borough and is not unique to this subdivision. Susitna subdivision to the north, approved almost 6 years ago, was designed at 70 units, and in actuality, today now has 71, with one lot that's subdivided with 5 condos on it. This shows you can't assume Wilmington will remain 76 units. On 20 August 2020, the Platting Board directed the developer of Susitna subdivision to build a second road. A few months later, when more board members were present, they voted to overturn that requirement. The voice recording of the 15 October 2020 Planning Board had a member giving this rationale to reverse the road requirement, and I quote, "Trying to fit Anchorage's road construction standards out here in the valley, it just won't work," end quote. With another Planning Board member contradicting that statement, and I quote, "It is a state-adopted code," meaning fire code, "and applies anywhere. We can't just ignore it," end quote. Make no mistake, by not following the requirements state law demands, we are going to make our road and public safety situation worse than Anchorage. Another comment on 15 October 2020, quote, "I'm afraid what we are going to see if we do the IFC and not our code is we are going to see plats coming before us. We'll see 29 and 30 lot subdivisions," end quote. His worry was the borough would see smaller subdivision development in the future as developers attempt to avoid the cost of constructing secondary accesses required for the safety of subdivision residents. I ask you, How do more roads lead to less development? Obviously, the logic applied by the previous planning board member makes no sense. The irony is, if we require the law to be followed, it actually leads to more development, not less. There's a real economic incentive, not to mention public safety incentive, to follow the law and require these roads to be built. As a citizen, I can't choose which lots I follow and which ones I won't. The same pertains to the borough and developers, more so in fact. And the laws are very clear in this case. This subdivision is not compliant with law. It is an unsafe design, and as such, AHFC can potentially deny loans to build within this subdivision. If any of this has changed, we could not find it in state publications. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Good day. My name is Will Hastings. I live off of Newfield Drive, east and north of the proposed subdivision, Wilmington Hills. I want to address the reasons the borough has used in the past to justify why the borough does not need to adhere to secondary fire apparatus road requirements directed in Alaska Administrative Code 13 AAC 50.025, which I'll refer to as State Fire Code for brevity. The borough's main rationale stemmed from the misinterpretation of Alaska Statute 1870.080, paragraph A, subsection 2, which says, the Department of Public Safety shall adopt regulations for fire and life safety criteria in commercial, industrial, business, institutional, or other public buildings and buildings used for residential purposes containing 4 or more dwelling units. The borough got hung up on the 4+ dwelling units and decided this meant access roads apply only if a subdivision has them. A direct word-for-word reading is very clear. 1870 is nothing more than the state retaining regulation authority over high occupancy buildings, a very understandable restriction, versus waiving a road requirement in fire code. If it was a waiver, then there would be a corresponding change in state fire code, and there isn't such a change. Be aware, 1870 also implements mechanical code 13 AAC 50.023, and there is no 4+ dwelling unit carve-out for it. All new single-family residential must be built to its standards. Bottom line, 1870 does not waive the borough from any of Alaska state fire codes or mechanical codes, myriad of requirements, only one of which is access road requirements. Another argument the borough has used is that state fire codes are restricted to the construction of buildings only, not structures, like roads. This never made any sense either. State fire code talks about fire hydrants, speed bumps, etc. along access roads. Structures are clearly regulated. The borough's past arguments also include that access roads shouldn't be built after a subdivision was complete, that the fire chief lacks authority to make access road decisions, etc. These arguments are not valid, but I have no time allowed to rebut them. But I do want to bring up something that should be looked at, and I will generally quote with small sections omitted for brevity. 15 AAC 150.030, minimum construction standards for Alaska Housing Finance Corporation. The corporation will not make a loan for residential housing unless the residential housing is in compliance with state building code adopted by the Department of Safety. And state building code means, according to this, for building standards for residential purposes containing fewer than 4 dwelling units, notwithstanding, which means despite, the exclusion of those buildings from the Department of Public Safety's jurisdiction made by AS 1870-080. This reads, the way this reads, it's if subdivisions, regardless of building occupancy size, do not have required access roads, HFC can deny a loan. We are not lawyers, firefighters, or loan officers, and I'm not pretending to be one either, but code and statute are available for anyone to read. This fallacy that Alaska is different, that we are rural in this area is just not true. In using the rationale to justify not following law is unsafe, and it's not a legal option. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anybody else that would like to testify? Anybody online? Okay, seeing no one else wants to testify, I'm closing public testimony. Gary, you're up.
Yeah, Gary's back up here again, and
Jesse Sumner.
here, and we're here to answer questions. Just so you know, we agree with the road condition change that, as Mr. Wagner put it up on the screen.
If I could address, I think there was a question about the speed at which we received our permit to construct through the right-of-way. The permit was already pre-existing and the previous owner, we paid the $10,000 bond and assumed the permit. There was also a previous Army Corps delineation for the parcel that said is non-jurisdictional. So thank you.
The permit said what? I'm having a hard time hearing you. You're not close enough.
The Corps says it's non-jurisdictional. In other words, they have no jurisdiction.
And with that non-jurisdictional, that includes the access road going through there. It doesn't-
That's the part that would have been in question.
Yeah, that's what it shows on the map.
Okay, so the second concern is over another access road.
Okay. So if you look on your plat, you'll see the stub roads that leave the property. Those are always considered the second access. You can't be the first person in there and have a second access because you can't trespass on other people's property. So the stub roads are put in there for interconnectivity, and when the adjoining property connects, it has to connect according to borough code. It's required, and they're pretty stickler about that, and they should be. So that's when the roads extend and connect. You can't, and I've mentioned this to a couple people that I know are in the room, because I've worked with them, but if you take, for instance, you're up north of Willow and you're on the Parks Highway with a 40-acre chunk, and you're fronting on the Parks Highway, and the first thing you're going to hear DOT say, which you've heard in the room today, you're only getting one access. So you're the first person. How do you get a second access? You can't. It's physically impossible until properties develop, and that's when roads start to connect, and that's when there's alternate access. That's why our code's set up the way it is.
So I have another question about how far off is it Silver Oak and North Faith or Faith? It's
It's a driveway.
It's a driveway.
It's not a road.
Okay.
The borough a few years ago started getting, and Alex would know, planning director in the back of the room, started assigning long driveways, street names, so that emergency services would know where to go. Yeah. And so it's a driveway.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a quarter mile away.
Okay, another question. Is there provision for pedestrian pathways to be constructed in the right of way?
No.
Why not? That is a large development. And there's like no lot for a common area and there's no sidewalks. You do expect families to inhabit these lots, right?
Common areas are done with common area plats. They require Uniform Common Interest Act requirements, and it needs maintenance. The borough won't accept them.
Well, that could be a homeowners association issue, but the pathways particularly there's no provision for any sidewalks to be built.
And that part of this code applies when you're near a school, so that there's pathways to a school. And I think you either had a case or you have one coming up like that.
We did.
Okay, you did. Okay. Yeah, I looked at that myself.
Which it didn't apply there either, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know.
That did not apply to that. Previous to me being here, that I read over that information, and that code didn't even apply to that subdivision.
It did.
It did it?
It did.
Okay, because my understanding was that it was approved, and I'm just going based off approval notes, that it was approved without.
No, it was approved. We shouldn't talk past cases anyways at this point.
Right.
This case does not hit the requirement of code that other cases have that require a pathway. So there is no code requirement that a pathway be
And that's what I was getting at,
dedicated
that
or
there was
constructed.
a proximity on the last case that this one doesn't apply to. And as well as that, and to clarify, when you mentioned stub roads, It's actually, you have on the plat here that shows the temporary cul-de-sacs. That's what the stub roads would then eventually tie
Right.
in for people that don't know what the temporary cul-de-sac is for.
Right. When the adjoining parcels develop, which everything develops eventually, no matter what anyone says, they do. And they're required to connect, and we've provided 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 ways to, connect.
Yeah, I see on the plat, there's 4 different locations.
There's 4 locations.
That
There's
are-
2
that are
on the
shown.
north, there's 1 on the east, and there's
One
a
on the
section line easement on the south.
Yeah, 2 norths, 1 southwest, 1 to the east.
Right.
And not including the access of Wilmington Drive coming in.
Does anybody else have any questions? Mr. Wilson?
I'm having a hard time because you're describing these things connecting, and all I see is you got to go out Wilmington to Schrock. No matter what you do, that's the only way. And if you keep adding over here, I still got to go out Schrock, Wilmington to Schrock. I still see a fire problem here. I'm not following your explanation here.
All I can do is reiterate what I said. Stub roads are meant for people to connect to in the future. You can't be the first person in, as my example on the Parks Highway in Willow, and expect to have a second access. That doesn't occur until surrounding development occurs. Or else there's no subdivisions, period. Zero.
I'm still having trouble with the whole Schrock, or is the only way. I need another way because you got a problem with the Schrock of the traffic.
Mr. Wagner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Fred Wagner, Platting Officer. I will point out that opposite of what you may have heard in testimony today, the fire code is not something that is applicable to subdivisions. The borough adopted the fire code under MSB 845.10, which provides for the regulation of buildings and structures which are considered improved or modified within the borough. The code, Title 43 does allow for the traffic to go this way. We handle this by doing traffic counts and road standards. The road standards are met. The traffic counts are allowed out. So this subdivision at this time does not require a second egress. The International Fire Code it does not apply to the subdivision of lands. It applies to buildings. It's an International Fire Code is a building code. It doesn't pertain to subdivisions, and that's not something we need to get wrapped up around again. We spent a couple of years getting wrapped around that, and we've cleared that up. The fire code does not apply to the subdivision regulations within the borough.
There would have to be 3,000 trips per day before a second access was required. 3,000, that's 300 lots.
I didn't see it, and it might be my ignorance, I missed it. What, do we have an estimated ADT on this?
I didn't see it in the packet either, but I know it was submitted because I did see it somewhere. I'm not sure
that's
what
I was looking
exhibit
for.
it is.
And we don't have it.
You don't have it?
We do not.
Okay. Well, you can, there's, how many lots are in it? 76. So 76 doesn't even trigger collector standard. It's still residential sub-collector. But they are building Wilmington to a collector. Oh, there it is. Okay. Was that in the packet? It's not numbered. It's in the soils report.
Yeah, it's at the very end of the soils report.
Okay.
Oh, we
The
do
end of the
have it.
soils
And
report?
yes, in Exhibit
Yeah,
C.
I knew I saw it, but I couldn't remember when.
6?
So I'll
sixth
wait for
page
you
of
to
the
get
soils
there.
report.
Wilmington Hill Traffic Analysis Map, 11326. Block count.
I can jump in and talk about the traffic count. I'm Maxwell Sumner, the petitioner. Oh, yeah, so Wilmington is on the official streets and highways plan as a local collector, which is essentially the same as a subdivision construction manual collector, up to 3,000. So it's operating and designated as a collector, 3,000 vehicles a day. So this would, it's already over 130, and this would, or I don't know, I'm not doing the math.
Multiply times 10.
Yeah.
It's 183 is the maximum at Truck Road.
Yeah.
Which is 1,830.
So we're adding 76, and it does not trigger the next higher category because it's already operating and functionally designated as that higher category.
In fact, one of the first things we did, I think it was even before they purchased the property, is see what would have to happen there if there was upgrades, et cetera, that were needed to be done. And they're not, because it's borough maintained and classified as a collector. But even from the traffic count, doesn't even trigger collector from this subdivision, but they are building the extension of Wilmington to that standard.
Any other questions?
I have another one. I want to go back to the Army Corps Engineers. When was that determination provided? Was it previous to the 2023 decision from the Supreme Court or after?
Max, do you want to address this? Or?
Yeah, so there was the parcel had a previous jurisdictional determination, which was attached to the listing. Now, when we tried to get when we applied for the permit to put the road in across extending Wilmington to access the parcel, we needed a separate jurisdictional determination. Due to this October 24th Army Corps of Engineers special public notice, they no longer do jurisdictional determinations. They have you hire a third-party engineering firm to make a jurisdictional determination for you. We hired that third-party engineering firm while we were still in contract negotiations, because obviously that was an essential part of this subdivision, as was brought up during public comments. They determined that it was not jurisdictional. We brought that to the borough when we expanded our access permit, which we were issued, and we did by certified mail notify all the adjacent property owners as required by the permit before we started construction of the access road to Wilmington.
Yeah, because
Adjacent to the access road.
So and the reason why I asked about the 23 decision, because it did change jurisdictional determinations and how they were done.
Correct.
Because
Which is
it used to be strictly the Army Corps Engineers, then it became the third-party engineering firm.
correct.
And so, which at the same time when that took place, it also changed what they were allowed to determine as jurisdictional.
Correct. So there was a pre-existing jurisdictional determination, and it was not clear if their previous determination covered the access road or not. So we went out and got a third-party engineer to make another jurisdictional
Because
determination.
what previously was jurisdictional.
It previously was not, the parcel was not jurisdictional previous to the U.S. Supreme Court's SAC of EPA decision. And then afterwards, we got another jurisdictional determination inclusive of the access road, which was again, not jurisdictional.
All right, so both.
To be safe.
Yeah, to be safe.
Yeah, so it's clarified that it's not jurisdictional.
Yeah, and I should also note, previously we were talking about IFC. This is off this topic, but we're talking about IFC, and IFC clearly in the Alaska state statute only applies to commercial or multifamily. This is planned to be a single family residential neighborhood. We have covenants to that effect.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the traffic one where Wilmington and Schrock. Who maintains Schrock Road?
Rock Road is a state maintained road.
So we just keep saying we're doing everything correctly on Wilmington. And then this whole tie-in to Schrock seems like a big issue, and we're ignoring it.
I can tell you something about DOT. I did a subdivision that was approved by this board on Peck Street. It was probably 5 years ago or so. I don't think any of you were here. 140 lots. It isn't built yet. And Peck Street's pretty busy, and there's a lot of houses there already. And there were a lot of comments about having to put in turn lanes. And DOT's comment was, there isn't any one particular subdivision that triggers it. As a matter of fact, they even said, we should put one at the traffic light at Peck and Bogart, but it doesn't warrant it. And so it isn't one subdivision. It would take 3,000 trips per day to be starting to think about anything in a DOT right away. They just, it's the squeaky wheel. I was telling one of the adjoiners here earlier, you know, if you want something done, you have to call DOT and get it on their list to improve it. And it's beyond the scope of any one subdivision, was the exact language from DOT.
I just have trouble with 3,000 because I feel like
We're
going
not
to-
at 3,000.
going to Fred Meyer's might be 3,000, but
We're half there.
but in the neighborhoods, that seems like a monstrous number.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, 183 on this one seems like a really huge number to me, and we're just trying to wave it away. That bothers me.
It's borough-wide. And if you think about it, I live on Lazy Mountain. I don't know what the traffic count is on Lazy Mountain, but we all go in and out one road. And I'll bet it's 3,000 or more. There's quite a bit of people up there now.
Yeah, if I could add a mental exercise, you know, all of Alaska has one road in, one road out. You know, Talkeetna has one road in, one road out.
Yeah.
The Kenai Peninsula Borough has one road in, one road out. You know, I mean, we're
Lakes Road, Talkeetna Spur Road,
Yeah.
KGB. Hollywood.
Petersville has one road in, one road out. You know,
Please don't do that. You guys had your
So-
time to speak.
So I guess I would just say that, you know, if you were to try and apply AFC, you know, to single family residential, which it doesn't apply to, then, you know, where do you draw the line? You know, at what point does it apply, and what point do you need a second access road and not? You know, how big is too big? How small is too small? I don't know.
I guess I have a question for our plating officer. Is this meets all borough code in all aspects of road design, future access on the areas which the borough has responsibility?
Yes, that is true.
Mr. Gilson.
I want to switch over to water and septic. I think we heard that some of the tests were done on septic and it wasn't very deep on those things. And we're also hearing this is a wetland and we're worried about runoff of the water. I'd like to hear more about that.
We both can. The test holes were done for borough code, which requires a certain depth to water table. DEC only requires 4 feet to water. Borough code's more stringent than that. So the holes that were less than 10 feet, we put monitor tubes in, and it gets monitored again in a growing season, which I don't think you were out there then. I think it was frozen.
We did.
Oh, you did? Okay, I wasn't sure. When you dug the hole.
I actually personally dug those test holes, and a lot of them were dug during the due diligence period. So we went and found what we thought would be the worst spots in the lot to dig the test holes. So, you know, considering it is not a limiting factor, and we found no test holes that were, I mean, it is a limiting factor, but we found no test holes that would warrant a reduction in the lot size, and all the lots had 10,000 square feet. I mean, most of the parcel is substantially better than that, and it's, you know, a big hill that is above or adjacent to marshy area. It is not itself marshy.
And so, and you asked about drainage. One of the adjoiners I was talking to earlier was talking about their subdivision, and can't remember the year, so I'm not going to even try to remember the year, but I've been here forever, it seems. And in the quote old days, there was nothing. There was no regulation. Now we're required to keep all our runoff on site. Mr. Chiavetta knows this. Mr. Kevin knows this. Anyone that's made a subdivision knows you need to keep your water on site so it doesn't run off past the property lines. And so that's something that's in the drainage plan on where the drainage is going to go. And then it's further refined after the plat is approved, and there's a pre-construction meeting with Public Works, and they look at the more detailed drainage plan. What exactly are you going to do to mitigate this? Where's it going to go? It's usually infiltration, and there's a couple board members that know. But
In addition to that, you personally dug the test holes, but those are all overseen by an engineer as well as the
Yes.
drainage plan.
Yes,
correct?
Kurt Holler was
So
there.
for those who
I was just operating the machine.
yeah, for those that are present, it's not you deciding what
no.
the test holes are. They're all certified by an engineer.
And Mr. Heller's a real conservative, which is why we use him.
My personal comment, it really bugs me there's no sidewalks. It really bothers me to see older people, women and children walking, riding their bikes on the side of the road. Especially since, and I hate to say this, there's like people that are driving wasted, and it's a safety issue.
To the chair.
Go ahead.
I think there's some Title 43 changes coming up. Hopefully, I know Mr. Wagner and I worked on them for about a year trying to change some things, and that would be the place to address sidewalks. It came up at the construction manual meeting, but again, it's where do you draw the line? You know, do you do it at 10 lots? Do you do it at 20? Do you do it at 30? Do you do it at 50 or 60? How do you do it on everyone? And so, you know, if there's going to be a code change to that effect, it should apply to everyone, because even the smaller subdivisions, say 10 lots, 50 10-lot subdivisions is the same as a 500 lot subdivision. And so that would have to be the change, but that would be in Title 43. That comes to this board for comments. Some of you might have sat through those hearings before. And then it goes to the Planning Commission and then to the Assembly. So I learned a long time ago that if you don't like the code, you change the code. And I've done that. I kind of wrote the city of Wausilla's land use regulations. I've been writing the boroughs, helping write them, and because I care. And you want it, if you want something to change, you have to change the code.
I agree completely.
Yeah, so it's coming.
Mr. Sumner.
Now, if I could add one thing, you know, this may not be a subdivision that you want to buy a parcel in or build a house in, but there is a need for affordable housing for our younger generation. And, you know, sidewalks are add costs to the development, you know, green areas add costs to the development.
I understand that, but that's so anti-family to not have sidewalks or green space, especially for a development of this size.
I disagree with that because I've experienced many in subdivisions. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Board Member Kevin, you know, our speed limits are reduced in these subdivisions, especially a subdivision like this where the roads are straight. So traffic conditions are not in a way that you're looking at obstructed corners, things like that. Things can be met in the criteria of speed as a condition that I think if speed bumps or something that people want to put in later, but I don't feel that the burden of a sidewalk in a rural subdivision is something that is necessary in these types of situations. I do believe so in an area where you have a higher access of children in schools closer to towns, but out in the rural areas, I disagree with a subdivision that would require sidewalks. I just don't think that's necessary.
All right, I think that's a conversation for Title 43 changes. But let me quickly address Green's open space. Back in Title 27, I was on the Title 27 committee, which predates 43 and all that. And at that time, the borough land manager said, we want to make every subdivision required to put green space in their subdivision. I said, that's great. Is the borough going to do that too? And it was, what do you mean? I said, well, the borough forecloses on lots within subdivisions all the time. Why don't they make those? Oh, we're not going to do that because they don't want the liability. So that would have made sense to me. on these foreclosed lots if you want open space within existing subdivisions to make them green space. Don't turn around and put them back on the market again. But that's how they funded their department. So green space is good. I put green space in. It can be bad. It also attracts, sometimes not the best situation. Anyways, that's my comment on that. But it doesn't pertain to this subdivision, but I have personal opinions on that. I've seen good and bad.
Understood.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All righty.
Thank you.
Ma'am, public testimony is closed. Okay, can I get a motion from the board?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the preliminary plat of Wilmington Hills, Section 21, Township 18 North, Range 01 West, Seward, Meridian, Alaska, contingent upon the staff recommendations 1 through 8 as shown on page 3 of handout number 1.
Thank you very, very much. You got a second?
I second.
Thank you very much. Discussion from the board? Mr. Gilson?
I still have a lot of concerns about the fire code and the water and the traffic on that.
That also goes back to changing code.
I disagree. I think it's the borough's interpretation of a state law. So the borough is not the arbiter between whether the law is correct or not when it's not their law.
Any other discussion? Oh, Mr. Wagner.
I'm going to read this to the board so that you can see what the conclusion, how the borough bases their standard. The Borough Assembly adopted the International Fire Code as adopted by 13 AAC 50025, which in turn is limited in its application to commercial, industrial, business, institutional, or other public buildings and building used for residential purposes containing 4 or more dwelling units. This is AS 1870.080A2. This adoption was for the express purpose of regulating buildings, not the subdivision of land. Neither the state fire marshal nor an employee of the Borough Emergency Services Department have the authority to usurp the legislative authority of the Borough Assembly in setting standards for the subdivision of real property within the borough. So you can feel that you don't think that the International Fire Code applies. It, however, does not apply. I'm sorry to say, but you are mistaken in your interpretation of what we're looking at. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Any further discussion? Is there any objection to approving this?
I object and like to have a vote.
All righty. Where's our thingy at? Mine's missing. That one. I would think that would go to this one.
That one's yours.
This one is?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so a yes, Madam Clerk. A yes vote means what? Put it, if you vote yes, it means this. If we vote no, it means this. Sorry.
If you vote yes, that is an approval. If you vote no, that is to not approve.
Okay. Members vote?
All right, the motion passes with plotting members McBride and Gilson not in favor.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, we have no other items of business. Platting staff comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Fred Wagner, Platting Officer. We will meet again in 2 weeks. let me see where we had this. I lost my agenda. What do we got? We have one case. We have one case on the March 19th plating